Welcome to the True North Compliance Podcast, where we discuss regulatory and compliance issues for Canadian business.
Hello, I'm Sean O'Hara, and thanks for listening. Today's episode is a YouTube live stream series I am doing with my co-host John Jurisic, who is the facilitator of the Sydney Breakfast Club. This series is the Sydney Breakfast Club After Hours.
Happy Monday morning to both of you, to my esteemed partner in the Sydney Breakfast Club After Hours, Sean O'Hara. Sean, good morning. Our guest, of course, is Rajkumar Padmawar, founder and CEO of ASAsoft. Have I pronounced that correctly?
ASAsoft.
Raj and I actually met, almost a decade ago. So we've known each other for some time. And in your latest capacity, which I did learn from meeting you recently at the Sydney Breakfast Club, was advisory committee member at the World Trade Center in Vancouver. And of course, so for those that don't know, the Sydney Breakfast Club, that is a monthly meeting that happens in the peninsula on Lower Vancouver Island, in which industry folks get together and talk about issues related to manufacturing, to industry growth, etc., etc. Raj attended, and of course the highlight thread of and theme that we've been highlighting since Donald Trump got inaugurated was, of course, the trade-related activity, the trade wars and the tariffs that have happened. As it turns out, I talked to Raj, and you are an expert on trade-related issues. We just had to have you on our show. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, John.
You bet. First of all, how did you get involved with the World Trade Center out of Vancouver? That's a fabulous accomplishment and fabulous expertise for us to have.
So it's funny you ask, John, and a lot of people actually would not be knowing a World Trade Center does exist in every major city on the planet. So there are 300 plus of these, every major city. So it's a great connector. And then World Trade Center reached out to me around 4 years back, and I was happy to jump in and learn a lot about what's going on in this land space. And but even before that, I was an alumni of TAP, which is TAP, the Trade Accelerator Program, which actually brings all the little companies that we have in British Columbia together for export readiness. And that was it was a great segue. In a way, it's like a week program and a workshop, lets you actually build a business canvas and shoots you up right into the system. So it was one of the best tailored program that I've come across on the planet so far, and it's so well knit and so well connected and so well, prepared in a way that it actually gets you ready to do business overseas beyond the experiences that you would actually come in. So a lot of it is basically to know what you know, unlearn, and then start fresh, start to relearn, because we technically have, like, you put in your intro, 98% of British Columbia is SMEs. And what is ironic is there is 1 to 4 employees or 0 to 4 employees, which is called micro businesses in British Columbia, are about 83% of that. 80%. And within that, the self-employed without paid help is 60%. So it's very, very vital for British Columbia.
Well, obviously, for so many companies everywhere, but particularly Lower Vancouver Island, who do work with the U.S., that percentage of business is going to change, likely lowered, okay? And so how they intend to complement that missing piece and grow it is probably the number one priority for many businesses. I think you're going to be busy, and we're going to be busy today. I'm going to default to Sean now to ask you the first question, now that we sort of have the context, and so lucky to have you on the show today.
What would be the first question? There's so many to ask. Yeah. One was how did you get in your role? You started to mention on that earlier.
Right. So if you really, backtrack a bit, being a founder and CEO for ASAsoft and advisory committee member, World Trade Center, and we are in a very, very niche area of having to manufacture high voltage polymer insulators that go actually into brim monetization. Highly, highly regulated industry. And then over a period of time, what we felt is, we have to not just focus on the west coast of US and Canada. We also need to actually spread a little bit wider. And this is before the fact of last 2 years or 4 years of volatility. And so participating in the Team Canada trade mission to, say, Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia, Australia, Thailand, Cambodia. And again, the last one was GAC-led trade mission to Brazil, which is, again, laser focused on the power utilities beyond the Team Canada trade mission. But now coming back to the earlier aspect of how I got involved into the World Trade advisory role, it's just fascinating to see how the globe revolves and comes back to the niches that we are all good at. And British Columbia actually, tops that chart because each of these companies are run so efficiently, and they all have, this gap fillers, what you could say, as getting into the niche vertical and actually trying to go and solve one problem at a time. And then, felt, and this is something which is very much aligned with our focus of doing business with ASAsoft with insulators. It was a seamless, intersection between the World Trade Centers and the core and the values, I would say. It was a natural fit.
Those are companies that are already exporting, that are running so efficiently.
Yeah, that leads us to our next question. Research indicates that not many SMEs export, actually. As much as that is a huge market and one they may be forced to get into, some in the neighborhood of 10 to 50% of Canadian SMEs export. And since so many of BC companies are classified as SMEs, there's a huge untapped potential here that we can learn about and participate in. So from your advisory role, from your experience, how do companies begin to realistically see that they can do this? Is it going to be through education? How does somebody go from, geez, I've been selling to Alberta and Washington for 20 years. How do I sell to Japan or to Europe?
What's that mindset shift that makes them want to, I want to maybe not say want to expand, but what needs to shift in their minds to proceed?
Yeah, it's let's say the context is uncertainty with south of the border, right? So the U.S. remains Canada's largest trading partner beyond saying that, again, economic policy shifts, the potential election-driven volatility, these are all the causes for uncertainty for Canadian exporters. Now, even if you look at 2024, 75% of our exports were U.S. dependent. But if you also see on the other side, United States, Canada as a country buys the most from United States in any province or the states of United States to date. So we are traditionally hooked into this beautiful relationship that we have south of the border. But now when it comes to going rest part of the world where we have a larger population, like a strategic diversification, and one of the best stepping stone is the trade missions. And the reason it is the best stepping stone is because the trade missions actually are Canada's very proactive response to de-risk our trade exposure, unlock the faster growing untapped markets. Now, by expanding into, for example, Asia and Latin America or Indo-Pacific countries, we are creating new channels for long-term resilience, right? So we can't afford to put all our eggs in one basket, especially when the basket is dealing with inflation, trade reviews, and also political headwinds. Now, for a company, the small ones, the micro or SMEs, as we are so used to, having easy business. Again, probably we were not as hungry as you were ever before. Now we're looking for, interprovince trade barriers to be removed, and which is also basically helping us. It's like, having to sell to Ontario is also kind of an export out of British Columbia, and then that's only making things better. But overall, I think, the low-hanging fruit is, the Trade Commissioner Service is a fantastic way to start things. And, we have Cale Husband, who's a local trade commissioner. A big shout out to him. As you can see, he's, the key partner in supporting SME export readiness. And, the Trade Commissioner Service, Global Affairs, World Trade Center, Vancouver, Export Navigator, Pacific Can, Viatech, Canadian embassies, and consulates abroad.
He's busy.
It is. It's never one thing that makes it happen. But one thing that can start is what we do, what we're good at doing. And then we have all this toolbox in our system.
Yes. Can just emphasize again, where does someone go to start that process? I recall when I was running a company and we were selling digital services across the world, there are some instances where documentation and specifications and technical requirements was overwhelming. I mean, that could be just that could be 3 people working all day. Is there a gateway that you would suggest to people they should go start here?
Absolutely. So again, it comes back to our previous ask. The Trade Executive Program, which is widely popular and which is again connected by World Trade Center Vancouver, where it is something that one can apply and have them walk you through this process, and it's unbelievably simple, not very complicated. And then we also have other database from EDC where we can actually check the references of every company or the country that we actually want to sell to. And we have even plans. Okay. And then, if we need capital, we have BDC. And again, coming back to the Trade Commissioner Service, Global Affairs, this particular program brings all these people into one room for a week. And then gets you to, role play and do things, set your business canvas and get things rolling, and then just focus on the areas that actually matters the most for you.
Yes. What was the name of that program again, please?
It's called a Trade Accelerator Program by World Trade Center, Vancouver.
Okay.
And if you just Google TAP, WTCV, I think you should get all of that detail. And these programs are connected. They're connected within Vancouver mainland, the mainland north side, and also specific to Vancouver Island as well. Very, very popular among them. Right. So, but again, it needs to be reminded a lot of times because it's a huge commitment for someone to actually come in, because they would like to have at least 2 senior executives of the company into the program and stay there in the program for a week to get you all that you need, all those nuggets that you need. And it's a beautiful program. And being an alumni, I attest to it as it kind of, we all know little bit pieces here and there, but just to kind of line them up and then go after to the most current information is very vital to it.
Sean, I'll let you SNS one because I have a ton in my brain.
Ken, I'm just putting these some of these links into the chat, or at least
fabulous.
The chat too.
See, that's why I need someone to help me to actually support the background here.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you, Sean. Much appreciated.
Yeah. So one of the most dangerous number in business is 1, whether that's 1 product, 1 employee, 1, in this case, 1 market. And that's an area that a lot of these businesses, I guess, have suffered from or have had to deal with. That they've got 1 market. We've relied on the US for way too long. So for a business that is thinking about this, or say they're on their first trade mission, what advice can you give for them to maximize the most from it, like before, during the mission itself, and afterwards, so it isn't just a nice trip and a collection of business cards and contacts.
Very well. And just as a bird's eye view, if you really look into ASEAN, which is like 7 million population plus, right? So 3.6 trillion GDP, and then you have 5.2% annual GDP growth. So if you really look at this number, they're pretty enticing. Now, if I have to literally break, because every country is very unique in its own way, right? And, the TCS will help us to do those warm introductions to the decision makers for faster credibility, market insights that we can get from a desk, or market validation, where the problem that you're really trying to solve, and also the increased chances for that export success is very important. Now, since every market is so different, like Indo-Pacific versus ASEAN, within that, if you have to dissect, and if you say, for example, you want to come up with, say, Japan. Japan is a really relationship-based business, and we can't expect business to roll out at a switch of a button. So even though Japan is our fourth largest trading partner, even though I think if you look from Tofino, I was tall enough, I could probably see Japan. So we are not close. But again, the relationship is so important, and not to be very well prepared. Again, we can't really do one deck and try to, say this will work for Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, or what that is, right? So you literally have to make a very, very market specific deck, and then do a little bit of research, get that information, get that visibility part, and start going through query. If you have to just go for, say, Japan, the big takeaway is, trust before transaction is so important. So the multiple meetings before specs and pricings are even discussed or brought up. Just the success hinges on showing long-term commit. The quality assurance is, and then also focus on the consistency and reliability more than aggressive pitching. So again, coming to another country that we did not too long ago was the Philippines, where it's value beyond the product. So, like, for example, strong interest in clean tech, right? So, or climate resilience solutions. Our decision makers respond to how the solution will support the local sustainability and economic efficiency. Now, if you go to Indonesia, where the policy alignment actually wins very big. So referencing, like, in our particular case, it's we are not in B2C or B2B. We call our software B2 utilities, which is such a tiny component. And even then, it actually makes a lot of sense, because now we are referencing something called national grid roadmap, which kind of helps to spark that interest. Then again, we adopt the pitch to reflect Indonesia's electrification and modernization goals. Now, there was one other trade mission that we did to Australia, the familiar but rigorous, right? So, like, we do have a shared language, if you may call a culture, we have a similar diversification in every form and shape, and also the business side. But they're very, very high standards. Like, the procurement is so structured, it's still benchmark driven. Requires like a very precise data certifications, long-term performance records.
Wow.
So then again, you have Thailand, you have Brazil. Thailand is very transitioning. Need a lead with kind of a case studies, like educate them to sell. And Brazil, the details really matter, because the HS code interpretation, different document language.
This is amazing. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Sydney Breakfast Club has always been proud of the fact that we are able to learn from experienced business people on how to navigate things and navigate process and sales and everything. And sometimes the best way to learn that is to hear how a person wasn't able to do that, or something that they failed at, or something that they strongly recommend you do not do, and that you learn from that experience, you grow, and you overcame it. Are there some obvious things that a newly found exporter you might say, don't do these three things, or have some sort of story around something for us to really learn from?
Absolutely. So I think when we started in 2000, I can give you that part of the quick story. We started as a technology company. So when we came in with an alternative product to traditional products that you see on every boulevard of a power line, it is something like just to go and get a certification tested or done was close to $250,000. It was not in today's terms, but 35 years. Right. We said, okay, we can't really afford to do this. Right. So what is that we are really good at? Right. So we thought maybe technology, we can actually develop the technology and then see if we can find someone who can buy it. Right. So at this point, we were not sure what we're doing. Again, we didn't have a product per se that we are manufactured. But then we have this great idea. We have this great specs and we know we have done a prototype. And then we went around and then we actually sold it to a technology know-how to Far East. And with the 10-year no competition clause. And the end goal in here was, hey, we got something here. You like it. It's not there in your country or that part of the world. Neither it is here in this part of the world, right? So can we test it? And that's how we got into this turnkey solution based. But one of the things that we realized is, they wanted us to give this technology away for perpetual. And we said, no, we can't. And they also wanted us to give away this technology with a global rights. Probably, or else they would not budge because it's also very new for them. And they're going to invest everything into it. We said, how about we go with a no competition clause of 10 years and see what happens. And that's what they basically brought into it with a 10-year no competition clause. Within the 2 years, we had a product manufactured in that part of the world. In that particular facility, we also have them to pitch to the utilities. That also was a part of the job that we did from here in Canada. And then ultimately, by about 2004, that particular company becomes one of the fastest growing company in this space in which they were not even there before. And ultimately, 2018, they got sold at $100 million. It's something that a valuation was given by a company out of America, which goes all the way in there, use a 20x EBITDA. Then somebody locally says, no, we will make it better. We give 100 EBITDA, right? So a lot of these things we don't know until we got into it, and we've got to start somewhere, right? So I think now fast forward, so then 2013, we went and incorporated the company. And one of the biggest thing that we started doing is, we're good in soft skills. So we keep the soft skills. We're good in developing algorithms. Let's do that. We are very good in having to scale a technology in every form and shape. Let's do that. And one of the biggest aspect to do list is IP protection. Right? So, we didn't have a lot of landscape at that time as who to go for and how we can get this help for IP protection. But today is a different scenario. So today, I think there is no pitfall if you can actually protect your IP. Right. So now we have got about more than 4 patents which are filed and maybe more are coming into the pipeline. But this is one thing that we have not started to focus in 2000, but we did start to focus in 2000 and going and having to do this protection in every market that you think will be useful. Right. It's a very pricey proposal, but it's something which is a long-term, highly sustainable practices.
Yes. Very enlightening. So you essentially, ostensibly, white labeled your product and had a industry leader within that country represent you, so to speak. And that was something that worked very well for you.
And then
more than white labeling, we set up the processes. It's our product that comes with our name, and the processes are all in hands. Right. And it's also, we do the auditing for each of these processes. Again, everything is very automated. It's not like it takes in a lot of your bandwidth, but, pick the ones who are the best in this particular creation, manufacturing, raw material production. Like, we got our supply chains from Switzerland to United States to Germany, to Israel, where we actually get very proprietary powders that help in how we can do corrosion resistance. And then you build it in a place which is, like, for example, I think 2018 till today, we haven't missed a single shipment. And California, San Francisco received our product on time. Sometimes the only complaint they had is, you're way too fast.
Great.
Great in a way, right? And our inflation has been very, very high. But with the algorithms that we worked with within 2018 till today, we were actually keep our product pricing within 2.5 to 3%, which is beyond industry standard.
Yeah.
A lot of different things can be done. Yeah.
So are they manufactured here locally or in these other countries?
Yeah. So we manufacture this lightweight insulator, which is nothing but a composite insulator. So it's got about three main elements to it. So we have a glass rod inside, which is called as an e-glass. Just that particular fiber itself comes from a company that makes the iPhone glass, Corning's out of the United States. Again, it's a specialized fibers, and then we need to bind that. So it comes with a special resins and adhesives that gets proprietarily manufactured in Switzerland. Then the polymer itself has kind of a self-cleaning ability, and it's got a lot of different science within it. So it comes from Germany. Then all this stuff goes into another company we call, which is also a company which manufactures every second can of pop on the planet. Every fifth tire, carbon comes from them, and one of the biggest investors from Southeast Asia to Canada. We bring the product. I mean, we bring all this materials to them, and then they assemble it, and they direct ship to our customer. But there is still one component. We still do it in the United States, where we have this particular technology which is licensed in San Francisco. So some of that product comes all the way on the Pacific to the United States and goes back on the board and then finally gets shipped. But with all this logistics, we still are ahead of the time. It's very complex manufacturing because, the best ingredients is what is needed for making the best products. And that's one thing I learned when I was working in Japan.
This has been extremely enlightening and helpful. And in fact, there is an event that you are helping promote by the World Trade Center that's coming up on July 24th, which, if I do my math right, it's this Thursday. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And it likely will end, because as much as we love our technology and love to communicate in unique ways, the human beings still have a limit to how much they're going to sit in front of the screen, and they're getting near that limit.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, there's a quick on this. It's a CUSMA compliance workshop, right? So it's on July 24th, Tuesday, here in Victoria, in person, half-day workshop. You'll learn basically, the customs lawyers, licensed broker, and you learn directly from them, again, TCS. It also covers rules of origin, tax, remissions, tariffs, documentation, all that you brought up. Key for SMEs exporting to the United States and Mexico. And most importantly, this is organized by World Trade Center Vancouver in collaboration with Pacific Can. And it's at Victoria Marriott Inner Harbor Hotel. And it's a breakfast and registration 8:30 to 9. Program itself is 9 to 11:30, and networking event is 11:30 to 12. I think it's a wonderful event in a way.
How are you getting some numbers yet? You're right in the middle of the summer. That's tough. We will put up links. We will advertise this and try to encourage people to come. Sean, unless you have a pressing question, I think we should end.
Yep, we're at the half hour.
Fabulous. Raj, thank you so much. This is so much appreciated. We're going to have you at the City Breakfast Club and share your experiences and your links and resources to a lot more people.
Actually, I do have one last question. Raj, yes. How can people get a hold of you?
ASAsoftCanada.com, lightweightinsulators.com, or Rajkumar.Padmawar at ASAsoftCanada.com, or LinkedIn page is perfectly fine.
Yes. Okay.
I would like to, say thank you to all the YouTube watching live, and thank you joining us, and thank you, John, Sean, and the Sydney Breakfast Club.
Fabulous.
It's doing amazing work.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much. Take care.